All right, so as noted, our tool this year is focused on obstacles to opportunity, housing, justice, and a path to equity. Similar to last year, we have a number of menu prompts at the top of the page, including hot links to get to any section of the dashboard, as well as the jurisdiction pages, and links at the top of the page to get to our resources, as well as the calls to action section. As you scroll down the page, we open up with our setting the stage for the tool. Again, this year, thinking about how we remove barriers and obstacles. You'll see some summary charts that highlight the data, particularly trends over the last several years since we launched the tool, as well as a comparison between Greater DC and Greater Baltimore around affordability challenges in both regions. Moving through the rest of the landing page, we move into our hurdles of racism section, which really focuses on those policies I highlighted as part of the presentation that have resulted in the housing disparities that we see today. In addition to the descriptions that you see, you'll notice there are hyperlinked resources throughout each description. So if you're not familiar with some of these terms or some of these references, we encourage you to click those links to learn more, to see resources, to read articles, but really to gather more information to understand the impact that these various practices and policies have had on our housing system and on our broader economic system. And again, we emphasize how the system of hurdles has really compounded over time. And again, only emphasizes even more so the work that our industry needs to do to further housing opportunity and housing equity and racial equity. We then move into our Face of Affordable Housing section, so who can afford to live in this region. Some enhancements to the tool this year. As noted, we are welcoming the Baltimore region. And so the tool has actually been updated to reflect both the DC metro area as well as Baltimore, understanding that the median rents and the AMIs are different for both regions. So you can toggle between the buttons at the top to alternate regions. The cards for the personas that are listed below also update in terms of income and other family demographics. As a reminder, all of the information with each of the cards is factual from real people. The photos are fictitious. Again, thinking through the policies and investments that are needed. As Leah mentioned in her presentation, we've added a few new policies this year, specifically around climate justice and the environment, and they have been grouped under our 3 buckets: preserve, produce, and protect. You will also see the links to the individual dashboards have been updated this year. We now have a regional map along with hyperlinks on the right-hand side that will take you to each of the jurisdiction dashboards. For those of you who remember HIT 2.0, this graphic is familiar to you. So again, we try to reiterate the role that each sector plays in this broader effort to further access to affordable housing. And with that, we also try to encourage folks to take action. And this year, we've really invested time and energy into our calls to action. So as you can see, the call to action section looks very different this year. Each of those buttons that I just hovered over will take you into a resource page that gives you very, very clear real life examples of what we've been seeing in the broader industry, housing and other industries as well, that help us understand what sectors can be doing to meet the need. And last but not least, we wrap up the landing page with our resources, including the link to the executive summary, advocacy tools, and requests to get an activation from the HAND team. And I will now turn this over to Leah to walk us through one of the dashboards. 1 second, there we go.
Thanks, Latoya. At the top of each dashboard, we have a set of fast facts with info about the size and of the jurisdiction. And you can also print the page or share it via email. There is a comparison box that you can select different jurisdictions that will appear in the policies section and the graphics if you would like to compare jurisdictions. The policy section I mentioned tracks policies to preserve, produce, and protect. If you hover over one of those question marks, it'll give you a definition for that policy. And then there's a checkbox to indicate whether the jurisdiction has it. This year, we have a toggle between the different policy categories to group them a little better. And the next section is our housing outcomes that are production and preservation data reported from the jurisdictions. You can use the legends to toggle on and off sections of the graphic by year, or in this case, you can actually toggle the multifamily or single family off or on. For the housing, affordable housing charts on the housing cost, for the DC jurisdictions, you can target between the number of units or the share of the target that jurisdictions are producing. And it's just the number of units for the Baltimore-based jurisdictions. And we have additional charts, including one on preservation this year, where we do display both units with existing subsidies as well as units previously unsubsidized. The next section highlights the inequitable outcomes that Black, Indigenous, and people of color in our region experience. And then following this section, the data portion concludes with a number of charts to inform jurisdictions about the housing context in their community. We go over income and change in income, as well as the rental supply, the change in the rental supply that I shared earlier, what the homeownership stock would look like as affordable to a new home buyer, and accessibility needs for households that may have a member that has a disability. And all of this data is available for download in the resource section of the HIT tool. And then finally, each dashboard has names and contact info for elected and appointed officials so that visitors to the site know who to reach out to in each jurisdiction to advocate for an increased focus on affordable housing production.
Thanks, Leah. So how can you use the HIT? So we really find there's 4 ways to leverage this tool. Number 1 is the data. And as Leah mentioned, the data is available for download as part of the resources section. We invite you to compare the data, look for trends, and learn, particularly from the year-over-year trends that you're seeing. The HIT is also an advocacy tool. And so as we think about coming out of this current budget cycle, how can you use the results of the HIT to start planning for your priorities for the next budget cycle? The HIT is also a policy tool. So thinking about how you can use the data to help inform and advise policy recommendations and broader decision-making. And last but not least, we see the HIT as an opportunity for regional shared learning. So where are jurisdictions seeing success and where are jurisdictions struggling, and particularly where is there a common struggle to meet the need? I also noted earlier that we have expanded our calls to action section. This gives you just a snapshot of some of what you'll see if you dive into the tool. We have enhanced calls to action for each sector. So as you'll see, we offer recommendations on specific calls to action and then offer linked examples that will take you to a website, an article, another resource that gives you very, very specific examples to understand how other agencies, municipalities, corporations, and the like are finding creative ways to help meet the need. The goal with this new revised calls to action section of the site is to also keep it updated. And so as we learn more about what's happening in our region and even outside of the region, as we find out more great examples to share with you, we will continue to update this section for your resource. So what's next? So we expect to have broad discussions within the hand footprint, and that includes the DMV. Baltimore, we anticipate that we will also be welcoming some additional Baltimore-based jurisdictions into the tool for next year. And we also would like to expand into Richmond. And so we'll be doing a lot of focused conversations around what that can look like for 2024. We also see opportunities for focusing on strategic messaging that can help all of you build on and amplify your calls to action. We also, as always, will have ongoing activations, particularly for hit featured jurisdictions in order to highlight what's working. We'll also be refining and expanding our housing practicum series that we've done with regional municipalities in partnership with HRNA advisors. So we are anticipating launching a new version of that series in the coming weeks. And then HAND will also be launching its second Supportive Housing Institute with CSH. And that will be in Northern and Southern Virginia, all the way down to the Hampton Roads and Richmond area. So with that, that concludes our presentation on HIT 3.0, and we encourage all of you to learn more at hit.handhousing.org.